Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, members of our faculty, staff, family, friends of these graduates, and members of our wonderful graduating class. Welcome to this, our commencement ceremony for the Berkeley MBA for Executives class of 2016. I am Rich Lyons, Dean of the Haas School of Business. It's my duty and it's my great pleasure to officiate at our ceremony here today. Today, it's a celebration of this group's personal achievements for having persevered through 19 months. It's a rigorous management and leadership curriculum. They've mastered new skills and abilities, all the while managing demanding jobs, maintaining active family and social lives. Many of you traveled long distances every 3 weeks to take your classes in this program. We know this wasn't always easy. Finding ways to balance all of these commitments is nothing short of remarkable. We applaud you for it. And after this, you can accomplish anything. I guarantee that. Today is also a celebration of your class as a whole, as an ensemble. The way you have come together as a group, as a team even, has been nothing short of extraordinary. Your class is leaving its mark on our institution and contributing to the experiences of those who come after you. You have set a standard. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Since I have just a few minutes to try and sum up your experience here, and not an easy task, an impossible task really, given how much you have crammed in and accomplished in this 19-month period. Your executive MBA program brought you not only into the traditional classroom environment to learn, but also it connected you to the globe in your immersion programs, right? The Napa immersion with Mark Rittenberg, the Silicon Valley immersion program with Toby Stewart, the San Francisco Applied Innovation Program with Sarah Beckman, Singapore with Tech Ho, and most recently, Washington, D.C. with our Maura O'Neill. Our professors and students in this program, and specifically in these immersions, they really have set a new standard of excellence for the category of executive MBA programs in distinguishing Berkeley with this type of innovative hands-on learning. We thank you for having high expectations and also for holding us to them. That's a two-sided relationship that we have both benefited from. Because of these collective experiences while you were here, you were transformed in a number of ways. Do they know the strategy and the finance and the accounting? Of course they do, right? But there are things that have happened, these sort of come in state A and leave in state B transformations. You know, what are some of the transformations that we as the faculty are most proud of? And I want to mention a couple of those. Look, when you came to Berkeley, when people sometimes ask me, can we sum Berkeley up in one idea? And you could never sum a complex institution like this up in one idea. But if forced to, and I was an undergrad here, this is an institution that grabs you by the coat or the shirt and it shakes you and it says, you have more degrees of freedom to live your life than you realize. Now go use them. And that's a really important part of that kind of optionality that you're seeing in yourself and in your own opportunities, right? You can see, you don't just know more. You can see more. You can see more identities in yourself, in fact. Another example of that is when literally people from this program will come up to me at the end of the Silicon Valley immersion and they will say, Rich, when I got into this program, starting companies, they do that. Other people do that. Now, after that immersion, I do that. I get it. I may not choose to do it right out of the program, but I get it. That's not just knowledge. That's an identity change. And when you start talking about the really important things that this program is about, those are the sorts of transformations that we work very hard to deliver in this program. And I know many, many of you feel that, right? It's sort of a confidence, not just in yourself in some general sense, but a confidence to see yourself in really fundamentally new and different ways. That's exciting. And these transformations, they're also possible not just because of things like the immersions, but also because of what the school is about. We attract a particular type of person. In fact, we talk about Berkeley leaders. What is a Berkeley leader? You know, we define Berkeley leaders as value-driven leaders who redefine business by embodying a set of principles that we take very, very seriously. Our graduates know those principles by heart. I just want to stress, we use them very, very intensively for admissions. We're not kidding around. And when we talk about those 4 principles, just very quickly, one of them is question the status quo. Now, that won't surprise anybody who knows what Berkeley is about. That habit of mind, there's got to be a better way to do this. Most of us love being around people who are like that. And that is not one-to-one with intelligence. There are, in fact, a lot of really intelligent people who don't ask that question of themselves all that often. Isn't there a better way to do this? That's the mindset we're looking for. And that's part of what Berkeley is about. Another, confidence without attitude. Confidence without attitude. True confidence comes without arrogance. The world needs all kinds. There are great leaders in history and in business who most of us would describe as arrogant. That's not this institution. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that we get this exactly right, but do we take it seriously? We do. Right? And it's the kind of stuff that engenders the trust and followership that we think leadership is made of. Show me a great leader that doesn't question the status quo, isn't thinking about where things are going deeply, isn't thinking about, couldn't we do things a little bit better than this, right? A third leadership principle, in fact, students always. You know, learning when learning is hard. Can you accept feedback even at the end of your career? You're at the top of your career, right? Our guest speaker, his son today, when we were having lunch, he said, "Is he the principal?" "Yes, I'm the principal." When we think about these jobs and we get into these roles, people do forget that they still have some feedback to hear, still have some things to learn. And that's an important part of students always. The last one, beyond yourself. Beyond yourself. Do you have a sense of stewardship for something larger than just you and your career? If I say the phrase, officers eat last, you all know what that means. And we've all worked for managers who are officers eat first kinds of managers. And we can always recognize the difference. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that we get this right, exactly right every time either, but are we conscious of it? You better believe it. Do we take it seriously? You better believe it. And we think that's what great leadership is made of. So these are parts, these elements of this experience, these components of this Berkeley leader are really defining of the program and defining of these graduates. Now, you are launching this next stage of your lives at a time of great opportunity and also of great uncertainty. Our world it's on many paths that will need bending, and your leadership can help all of us, help society, help our economies bend them. Berkeley leaders encourage diverse and divergent ways of thinking, coming at things from different angles, yet also know how to bring people together toward a common goal. You will shape the culture of the organizations you lead. Now more than ever in this connected world, values-based leadership is needed in every organization at every level. And that's part of why we drive those 4 values, those 4 principles, not just through admissions, but through the way we think about leadership. And you are all in part of that product, part of that outcome, is that you have before you a set of what I will call chief purpose officers. They don't just feed on the purpose that they are engaged in. They help create it. They help instill a greater sense of purpose in the people around them. And that's part of becoming a great leader too. And they understand that. Before we move on, I have an important news update. I am thrilled, and boy, am I thrilled to report this. Here's what I'm going to report. 99% of this Berkeley MBA for Executives class of 2016 has made a donation to Haas as of today. The total class gift, a remarkable $63,500. That is absolutely outstanding. Thank you. Thank you. thank you, right? You know, the state of California created this business school. It's the second oldest business school in the United States. But the alumni made it great. The buildings we are in were paid for by the alumni. The faculty endowed chairs, alumni. The student support, mostly alumni funded, right? And you are part of that tradition. I thank you that you have participated in this is symbolized by the stoles that you are wearing. 85% of you also gave at what we call the Leadership Society level, and that's above $500. This is possibly, I believe this is the most successful student gift campaign, not just among our executive MBA graduating classes, but among any of our graduating classes. It's really extraordinary. I thank you. It's part of this beyond yourself spirit, right? Am I part of this institution? Do I believe in what it represents? And that's part of our two-way bargain going forward. And we need to deliver a lot of value to you throughout your life and career, right? The spirit is further reflected in your decision to designate a portion of these funds to a scholarship earmarked for future students from the nonprofit sector. Bravo. As you know, investing in Berkeley Haas through the Graduating Gift Campaign, it's a strong and important tradition at our school. I'd like to personally thank all of the donors for their generosity in supporting this annual gift or this graduating class gift, and special thanks to your campaign leaders. I want to call out Liz Lowry, Harold Allen, and Christy Johnston Limon. You were the subcommittee that really made that happen. Thank you. Thank you. Finally, I want to offer special recognition to a group of individuals that have worked hard to make this day possible for you, these soon-to-be graduates. And these people are the spouses, the partners, the parents, the family, the friends of these graduating students in the audience today. Let's give them all a big hand. Thank you. I suspect for some of you, maybe many of you, these were 19 long months, and here we are celebrating the closure of it. It is now my pleasure to turn our attention to the student speaker for the class of 2016. Mark Kleinman spent his entire life in New York before moving to the Bay Area in 2013 to take a job in the finance office at Macy's.com. In the 3 years since moving here, Matt has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, married the same weekend he started at Haas. He completed this vigorous 19-month program, as all of his classmates did. Throughout the program, he's tried to provide levity even during the program's most trying moments. It's one of his signature qualities. His sense of humor has been a bright spot both inside and outside the classroom, and it's why Matt was chosen as his class speaker. In the words of a fellow student, quote, "There was never a dull moment with Matt around. His straight-faced sarcasm infiltrated every class. He is a true example of confidence without attitude and goes beyond himself as a group mate and as a friend. He's a student of life, always questions the status quo in a way that makes us all chuckle. Matt tries every day to show confidence without attitude as he takes the new skills he's acquired at Haas and applies them to his career and to his personal life. His time here has taught him to never allow yourself and your skills to become stale and always seek out something new to learn. It is my pleasure to introduce Matt Kleinman." Matt.
Graduation. Graduation is what brings us together today. Thank you, Dean Lyons, distinguished faculty, friends and family, and the rest of my Hogwarts Business Enchantment graduating class. Please remove your wands now. Nobody else has a wand? Okay. I am honored and humbled to have been chosen to represent the class on this special day that we've all worked together, one B+ at a time, over these past 19 months for. To my classmates, I thank you for trusting me and testing me with what has been by far the most difficult assignment of the entire MBA curriculum, other than Professor Huff's HubSpot write-up. You may not know this, but at the end of the ceremony, I must submit this speech into B courses where it'll be graded by this esteemed faculty sitting up here right now. And because it's the only paper, I am unfortunately going to get a 3.45. A quick shout out to my classmates who shared the turnaround experience. I want you all to know that it was Professor Goodson who had this graduation ceremony moved to Hertz Hall so that you have one more opportunity to think about whether CD&R will be able to pull off the operational improvements necessary to turn around Hertz car rental. As many of you may know, due to a new job opportunity, our classmate Bruce Kim of the famed Bruce Chant is unable to share this day with us in person. For those who never met Bruce, he's the author of a new book entitled Enjoying Break Time in Silicon Valley, Google's Cafeteria versus Zynga's Cafeteria. Due to his absence, for the final time, I can say that yes, today's session will be recorded and made available over Adobe Connect after the ceremony is over, and Derek will be sending out a link to all of you. 19 months is at once an eternity and but a blink of an eye, and it flew faster than a 100-page deck did in stats class. Throughout that time, you have provided me and provided each other with such unbelievable amounts of memories, at times humorous, at times heartwarming, and at times heart-wrenching. As I began writing this, I quickly realized it was impossible to do justice to our time together with only a brief few anecdotes. Far too many inside jokes would have to be left on the table. The Berkeley Haas MBA for Executives, or if you've never heard of an executive MBA, think of it as the Berkeley Haas MBA for old people, was a 19-month labor of love that those who undertook it won't soon forget. This is mostly due to the fact that this program unofficially holds the domestic record for the highest number of self-reflection papers written per student, and all of our growth or lack thereof has been documented and graded whether we like it or not. All of us today are only able to celebrate thanks to the love and support of everyone here in this room, and so I would like to take a moment and acknowledge our friends and family, without whom none of us would be walking across this stage today. For me, this program began the same weekend I got married, and we had 5 other MBAs begin marriages during this program. To my wife and the significant others of those 5 classmates, I thank you and the sacrifice you all made during this first year of marriage to allow us to undertake this journey. To those MBAs that welcome new small additions to the family, I again thank your families for allowing you to come to block to catch up on sleep during classes. Finally, to those MBAs that lost someone dear during the program, a club to which I am also unfortunately a member, I want to take a moment and acknowledge that whoever they were, that person is right here in this room within your heart, celebrating with you and alongside all of us today. Before applying to this program, I didn't give a whole lot of thought to going back to school. That decision was only partly based on the fact that I remember very well my undergraduate GPA, but at the same time, I thought business school is too cutthroat. I feared my style and sense of humor won't fit in with all these serious people like Eric Sharp. It'll be too competitive to make real friendships. I would imagine that all MBA classes have their share of people wanting to come in first, and this class is no different, although not in the way that I expected at first. Today, for all of you, I'm going to lift the veil and let you in on the dark underbelly of the MBA program and how it reared its head in what is clearly the most important aspect of everyone's MBA experience: the choice of seat assignments in the classroom before the first class of each term. Our terms would begin with a vicious competitive race to get to the classroom as early as possible under the cover of darkness to ensure you got to pick whatever seat you wanted most. This competition escalated to such high stakes that one member of our class, whose name I won't reveal no matter how much you roll your eyes, allegedly begged a janitor and snuck into the Haas building after midnight the night before the first class of our 3rd term and placed a handful of nameplates on seats to ensure that they were reserved the following day. In many classes we took, it was repeatedly pointed out to us what seat George W. Bush preferred. So clearly seat location correlates very strongly with future success. In all seriousness, though, it is again a testament to this class that the only competition we ever really encountered, other than during tower building in Jenny's class, was during this seat competition, and everything else was done with collaboration and sharing. For those who can't tell, EMBA 16 is a particularly tight group. The class has grown closer than I think anybody would have expected at the start of the program. Thinking back, it's hard to remember the exact moment it began, but the seeds were there from the very, very beginning. I'd like to share a memory with all of our friends and family that recounts one of the first times I really saw that true character start to emerge. August of 2015, we were midway through our Napa excursion week led by Professor Rittenberg and his amazing team, and the warm-up exercise for the day was for everyone to stand in a giant circle and mimic the dance movements of whoever stepped into the middle of the circle. The first few people who dared to come into the middle of the circle and test the waters were easy guesses. But after a few minutes, something amazing happened. One by one, people who you might characterize as quieter members of the class stepped out to lead in whatever dance movements came into their head. You could see the insecurities on people's faces around the circle as they contemplated whether or not to step out into the middle of the group. And one by one, as they did, you could see those same insecurities melt away as each person was greeted with love and support from the rest of the room, who cheered along for every single brave person. For myself, having plateaued on dance moves 2 weeks shy of my bar mitzvah, I declined to participate that day, but what I saw was a desire to show each and every classmate that they belonged, that they were accepted, and that they were loved. That love, belonging, and acceptance has grown stronger with each day, and we have supported each other through job changes, through the beginning of a new business, and through the destructive snack famine of 2016. As we prepare to say curtain down on the academic portion of our time together, I have a surprise for you all. I was recently handed a set of future newspaper headlines that reveal only a preview of the amazing accomplishments that will be achieved by this amazing graduating class of EMBA 16. So please grab a glass of hand-chilled Navarro wine, pick up your boxed lunch, and hit the snack room while we take a brief glimpse into the future. Scott Olszewski, Chief People Officer at Augmented Hand Semiconductors, sends shockwaves through the industry when he improves Moore's Law and quadruples current wafer sizes. Mercedes Browning, challenging the status quo, creates low-cost, super healthy chocolate-covered almonds, which she sells under the name Browmans. Joe Peters, former anesthesiologist and owner of Peters Creative Accounting Services, wins the Nobel Prize for his work in redefining the calculation of the US labor force. Chris Sampson, founder of Reuse, completed his recent acquisition of Orange and announces the new ongoing focus of the company will be leveraging the Internet of Things to mine for bitcoins, and all future company communications will happen on Snapchat. Mike Boos, after selling his robot plane loading company, YoLoad, for $1.5 billion, announces he is devoting his life to his true passion, combining recently unearthed Stegosaurus DNA with a panda to create a Pandasaurus. Andy Rose, head of cold calls at Berkeley Haas, retires from his position, stating it was always a good choice to move to Canada, and despite the timing being perfect, he did not pause for questions on the way out. And finally, Ethan Ho, Berkeley Haas, EMBA 16, has been unanimously elected the first ever US Prime Minister of Handsome. EMBA 16. When we first started this program, it sounded like a cute nickname, but not much else. But an unexpected transition has occurred over time. I asked my classmates now to indulge me for a moment and to take a look at the person sitting on either side of them, and maybe two people down if that person next to you doesn't do it for you. Think about what comes to your mind and remember how you feel. It is a credit to the 69 people in this class that for me, and I think for you as well, EMBA 16 has transcended being an academic moniker and now means something totally different. It means family. And as we graduate today from this program, I would say we do so not as 69 unique graduates, but as one cohesive family. Don't just take my word for it. As amazing as this program has been, many of you have taken it upon yourselves to add even more to the already rich contents of this program. Through the efforts of each and every one of you, we have toured an Amazon megacenter, traveled to Israel, opened homes to host parties, engaged in an atrociously played game of cricket, created a class t-shirt, explored Seattle, and finally celebrated our graduation at one of New York City's finest restaurants with an after party at a salsa dance party for senior citizens. Before I close, I want to take a moment to thank the program office for putting together such a special group of people, and to Dean Lyons for leading an institution that focuses on the 4 principles and leading without arrogance. I know that this graduating class will go forth and live life in a way that makes Haas proud. EMBA 16, today is a day in celebration of you and the remarkable transformation all but a few of you have undertaken. In 19 months, you have been brave, you have been caring, and as demonstrated even today, you have never missed an opportunity to wish someone a happy birthday on WhatsApp. Remember that no matter what may happen outside these walls, our spirit and unity will trump anything that stands in our way. You are an extraordinary group of people who for the last 19 months I have been lucky to call classmates, and I am even more fortunate still to graduate calling you all family. Thank you.
That was outstanding, Matt. You know, the phrase, it means family, right? Bound together by these relationships, by a common creed, by so many things that, you know, this program, even among our 6-degree programs, because you've just lived and worked together so tightly, it's a remarkable chemistry. Thank you for reminding us of that in your wonderful way. It means family. Also that, you know, that dancing circle. That's not a story that'll be easy to forget, right? And those are the sorts of things that connect people for a long, long time. The kinds of things that are real in the moment, but also profoundly symbolic as we go through them because we understand what they do for us. Thank you, Matt. Each year we have called upon an alum of uncommon distinction to address our MBA graduating class as our commencement speaker. We seek a person who embodies a commitment to excellence and possesses a distinguished record of achievement, as well as someone who works to make this, our world, a better place and live a better place to live through his or her efforts. This year, we're delighted that the Berkeley MBA for Executives Program commencement speaker is such a leader. He is also one of our own, an alum of this program. It is Tim Campos. Tim Tim, as you know from your program, is a graduate of this MBA for Executives program in its earlier vintage, the Berkeley Columbia MBA class. That was 2011. He's a business-focused technology leader who has leaned into his unique understanding of challenges, both developing and applying information technology to launch his wildly successful 20-year career, and with no signs that he is anywhere near close to stopping. In 2009, he was at what most people think of as the top of his game. Still in his mid-30s, he had been the youngest chief information officer of any Fortune 500 company, KLA-Tencor, a leading supplier of semiconductor equipment and services. Earlier in his career, he had worked in software engineering positions at Portera Systems, also at Sybase, and at Silicon Graphics. Questioning the status quo, he made the decision to leave that CIO position in 2009 to pursue his degree here in the joint executive MBA program with the Haas School and Columbia Business School. And it seems it was not such a bad idea. While in his next role, CIO of Facebook, Chief Information Officer of Facebook, held the same title, it entailed a much greater emphasis on the business performance of the company, right? Where does his economic value come from, and how does that tie to the information that is such a big part of the business model of Facebook? And he would become what Tim would call the next generation of CIOs, becoming more like a chief operating officer in many ways than CIOs of the past. When he joined Facebook in 2010, the company's IT group hovered around 40 people. Over the next 10 plus years, he would oversee the growth 20 times in revenue and over 10 times in employees. This is Facebook-wide. In that time, Facebook's network grew to serve 1.79 billion monthly users that it has today. 1.79 billion monthly users. Last May, Tim announced his plans to depart from Facebook at the end of 2016 to launch his own company, an enterprise software startup with a fellow Berkeley Haas alum. He is immensely proud of the team and company he is leaving behind. While still in stealth mode on his new venture, his passion has been and continues to be, quote, building the next generation enterprise software that helps us to reimagine how work is done, end quote. We eagerly await to learn more. Clearly, we have not seen or heard the last of our Tim Campos. In addition to his business ventures, Tim has been an active friend to our school. He gives generously of his time, speaking at our alumni and student conferences over the years, hosting students at Facebook as part of our EMBA Silicon Valley Immersion Weeks. He's a valuable member of our Haas School board and previously served as an advisor to the Fisher IT Center at Haas, that role over 10 years. He and his wife Shannon are also loyal and generous philanthropic supporters, continually champion the importance of giving back and making this important asset to society stronger. Tim is fundamentally a believer in people. When he isn't working, he spends time bridging the technology divide by creating education and employment opportunities for underprivileged youth as a board member for Year Up organization and the Children's Discovery Museum of San Jose. And in between everything else, he enjoys time with his wife, a fellow Haas alumna, Shannon, and their 2 children. I could not be more proud to call Tim Campos a fellow alum of our school. He's an exemplar of what I called before the Berkeley leader, making us proud not only of his many career accomplishments, but also in his adherence to those leadership principles that I went through before. Please join me, warm welcome, our Tim Campos.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the great honor to speak here. Thank you, Dean Lyons, for your very generous introduction. Thank you to the distinguished faculty for all of your impact on us. It's great to see many familiar faces. And thank you, students and the class of 2016, for the opportunity to speak with you. My job is going to be to try to tell you something that you'll actually remember in the future. Something fitting to help cap the incredible experience that you've had over the past 19 months in this amazing program. This is my goal. But I'm also an entrepreneur, and we can have lofty goals, but we also have limited resources, in this case, time. So I'm gonna need to break this thing down to its minimum essence, a minimum viable product, if you will. So while my goal will be to change your life, my MVP here is going to be to try to entertain you for the next 15 minutes. It's a great honor to speak here today, an honor because my family has so much tradition and association with UC Berkeley. As Dean Lyons mentioned, I not only received my MBA here, but I also received my degree in electrical engineering and computer science from Cal. But my relationship with Cal doesn't stop there. You see, my wife also went to Cal. My brother-in-law went to Cal. My sister went to Cal. My father teaches at Cal. My mother-in-law went to Cal. My wife's father went to Cal. My wife's uncle went to Cal. My uncle taught at Cal. The list goes on. And so we have a great tradition and association with this phenomenal institution, and I'm very grateful to be a part of it. Congratulations. Congratulations to the class of 2016 on completing your journey. You are about to be anointed the title of MBA, Masters of Business Administration. Let me be the first to tell you what your new MBA now entitles you to. Nothing. I'm sorry to say that no one is going to hire you just because you got your MBA. And if that's why you joined this program, oops, you made a big mistake. When I was at Facebook, we would do weekly Q&As with Mark Zuckerberg, and he would take questions from anyone in the company. And he always answered directly and honestly. I remember one day someone asked why some of our roles required an MBA. And Mark said, no, you're mistaken. No role at Facebook requires an MBA. And the person said, nope, it's right here on the job description. And Mark, with his best Jedi mind trick impression, said, no, you don't understand. No role at Facebook requires an MBA. You see, Facebook is a meritocracy where the value of your thoughts and ideas are your currency. And no individual can use title to gain an edge on another employee. This is why it was important to Zuck, a college dropout, that we not focus on the pretentious. What Facebook cares about when we hire you is what quite simply you can do. No, an MBA is not about achieving a degree, a title, a credential. It's about what you've learned. It's about the relationships you've built. And most of all, it's about how it changes who you are. And this program has given you a tremendous set of gifts. While I expect that you may have all truly enjoyed and appreciated your experience in this program, the gifts you've received have only just begun to pay dividends. For much of my career, I had chosen not to get my MBA, rationalizing the decision by the fact that it hadn't really impeded my career. And when I was promoted to CIO of KLA-Tencor, I had become, as Rich said, the youngest CIO in the Fortune 500. My career had progressed to this point without the need for any fancy degree. I had been successful by grit, determination, and, to be quite frank, a lot of networking. Yet, I'd also become stuck. At KLA-Tencor, my job was purely about cost-cutting, outsourcing, and offshoring jobs. I had felt that I'd lost my creative edge. And worse, I was becoming distant from my wife and my friends. I was Tim Campos, CIO of KLA-Tencor, trapped in the false association of my identity with my job. I didn't feel recognized and appreciated. I didn't feel financially safe. And I started to believe that the acronym of CIO truly meant career is over, making it a really dumb idea to have been the youngest person to take that job. So I needed a reboot. I decided that the MBA would be my vehicle for that, and the Berkeley MBA seemed a perfect fit. I would not have to sacrifice my career while getting my MBA, so this was exactly what I wanted. And so I applied eagerly, ready to have my life change, ready for the transition. And then they turned me down. I wasn't accepted into the program. It was an interesting lesson that I only completely appreciated later. You see, there's a Taoist proverb of an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. And one day, the horse that he needed to work his crops ran away. And upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. "What a loss," they said sympathetically. "Maybe," said the farmer. The next morning, the horse returned, bringing with it 3 other wild horses. "How fortunate," his neighbors exclaimed. "Maybe," said the farmer. The next day, his son tried to ride one of those untamed horses. It was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbors again came to grieve for his misfortune. "Maybe," said the farmer. The day after, this was a really busy week at this guy's house. The day after, military officers came to the village to draft young men into the army to fight a terrible war. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. Once again, the neighbors congratulated the farmer. "Maybe," he said once again. There are many points to this story, but the one that's most important for me is not to be so judgmental when something happens. Whether it is good or bad will reveal itself in time. In fact, a friend and one of my favorite researchers and authors of all time is Jim Collins, author of Good to Great and Built to Last. In his most recent book, Collins studied empirically the effect of luck on business. Would you like to know how important luck is to the success of a business? Not at all. According to Collins' research, what matters most is not whether you experience good luck or you're able to avoid bad luck. What matters is how you respond when either good or bad luck happens. This was directly relevant to my transition. I reapplied to Berkeley the following year and was accepted into the 2011 class, which would set into motion a couple of things that could only have happened as a part of this class. The first was the people that I met. People who have forever changed my life. All of my classmates are exceptional. A couple in particular, however, have become the closest of friends. Mike Chaput and Matt Cooper, their families and mine became great friends during our time together in the program, a friendship which has only grown stronger since. We traveled together from places like Vegas to Tuscany, Tahoe to Canada. We're student always together. We've audited a class at either Berkeley or Columbia every other year since graduation. We've invested together. We bought into a Napa winery 4 years ago, which has since received exceptional wine scores from both Wine Spectator and Robert Parker scores. And we invested in each other, both figuratively and literally. Mike and Matt have helped coach me through many of my challenges. And I invested in Matt's startup, Carmenta Bioscience, which he founded shortly after graduation. My profit from that one investment returned to me more than 3 times what I paid to go into this program. My BC EMBA relationships are a big part of my life. And just as an illustration of that, just in the last several days, I've interacted with over half a dozen of my classmates. And I'm forever grateful for these relationships. The second major life-changing event was my opportunity to go to Facebook. This started with the very courageous decision to leave my job at KLA-Tencor a year before I even applied to Facebook. Now, the definition of courage, according to Webster, is mental or moral strength to venture and withstand fear or difficulty. I have a much simpler explanation. My definition of courage is that it's doing something intentionally that looks and feels very stupid initially, but turns out to be a really great idea. In my case, I chose to leave KLA-Tencor in the middle of 2009. At the time, unemployment was high and skyrocketing, and I walked away from a perfectly good executive role that I just didn't like, just so I could be an unemployed student. It definitely felt stupid. But I had not left KLA-Tencor. Had I not left KLA-Tencor, I'm confident I wouldn't even had the time to learn that Facebook was even looking for a CIO. Moreover, had I not been in this program, I wouldn't have had the help that I received from nearly a dozen classmates to prepare for my interviews and to get the job. An opportunity like Facebook was for me exactly the transition that I had hoped for when I chose to do my MBA. It represented growth, a company that I had passion for. A company that would not just value my skills as a manager, but would also help me to develop my newfound skills as a leader. And while I didn't know exactly how things would work out when I chose to leave KLA, I knew I was leaving to create a better opportunity for myself. And this definitely took courage. I worked at Facebook for over half of its life, starting in 2010. When I joined the company, it was a little over 1,000 employees and about $1 billion in revenue, smaller than today's Snapchat, Palantir, and several other companies you might have heard of. It was far from a sure thing as a company, but it had a really good product and an exceptional leadership team. One of my greatest lessons from Facebook during my tenure there was the power of culture. Professor Jenny Chapman taught us about the importance of culture in our organizational leadership class. But to be honest, I never quite got it. It didn't show up on the balance sheet. It wasn't something that you could see or touch, so how could it be real? Why did it really matter? Facebook's culture, if you come to the company, is clearly apparent. In fact, the most commonly used phrase to describe what the company is like when people visit it is that it feels like Disneyland here, which, by the way, is another culturally driven enterprise. We have signs plastered everywhere around the walls that say things like, move fast and break things, fortune favors the bold, think wrong. These are all memes to reinforce the culture of innovation. The fact that experimenting and failing is not just okay. This is key to our innovation. I remember a few years ago, we had an all hands. Now, at Facebook, we're a global company, and so we broadcast our all hands around the world via video so that everybody can watch. And in this particular all hands, Zuck was sharing his vision of the future. He was talking about technologies that would come to bear over the next 10, 20, even 30 years. Some of that vision is public now, so I can talk about it. Things like incredible artificial intelligence that can understand the content of photos and videos, drones that can fly for 3 months at a time while beaming internet to low Earth orbit satellite to provide internet in places that can't have it, virtual and augmented reality interfaces. And while Zuck was describing his vision, he said, "Let me show you how incredible this new technology." The video froze. In fact, throughout this speech, the live stream repeatedly failed. It was an embarrassing failure, horribly embarrassing. Worse, everybody knew that it was my team's fault. Except that wasn't exactly true. The parts that failed included several pieces of technology owned by other groups. Now, at most companies, I probably would have been fired over this. And if not, it would have been a great political fight of finger pointing to kind of figure out who was accountable for this so we could assign blame. But I approached this situation differently. I immediately sent a Facebook post to the entire company, apologizing for the issue, owning the irony of a presentation focused on the technology of the future, ruined by an inability to run the technology of today. I highlighted what had happened, that I would ensure that we fixed it, and my post went viral to nearly half of the company. Instead of being shamed by others, I was praised. My post was used as an example of accountability and responsibility. In fact, one of Sheryl Sandberg's cultural memes is "Nothing at Facebook is somebody else's problems." And my approach to this issue typified it. We fixed the issue that we had that day, and to date, it's just one of my very successful failures. While at Facebook, I had the best CIO job in the industry. I was able to not only define my role, but I was able to do things that nobody expected me to do. Nobody asked me to do. I built a full product organization within IT, focused on building next-generation enterprise software. We built many new and innovative technologies, from how we repair equipment and infrastructure in our data centers to how we hire employees. Some of our innovations were so significant that they caught the eye of our larger advertisers, who demanded that we productize them, and we did. This wasn't what IT was supposed to be doing. My job, however, was the productivity of Facebook, and during the 6 years that I was there, we more than doubled the productivity of the company, while our workforce scaled by a factor of 10 and our revenue by a factor of 20. I'm proud of these objectives, but as Dean Lyons said, I made the very difficult decision last year to leave my role to start my own venture. A decision which, in the short term, again, felt kind of stupid. But with time, it's starting to feel like maybe it wasn't such a bad idea. I co-founded my company right after leaving Facebook with yet another one of my amazing classmates. Someone that I had the honor of hiring and working with at Facebook for 4 years, Birch Arpot. Just 4 weeks after leaving Facebook and beginning pitching, Birch and I received our first term sheet. And we're just days away today from closing our seed round. Our strategy for our company leverages heavily from insights gained from our strategy and telecommunications, media, and technology class that we took while we were in this program. And true to everything that we learned from Steve Blank in entrepreneurship, we've already lined up our initial customers, and even before having built a single line of code in our product. The elements of my story that I'm sharing with you today are not unique to me. My story is a function of everything that I gained having been a part of the Berkeley Executive MBA program. It represents something that cannot be summarized by a 3-letter acronym. And it is why the MBA title is not really what this is all about. I actually have 2 MBAs, but I'm not defined by them. I am not the CIO of KLA-Tencor. I am not the CIO of Facebook. I am Tim Campos. And I am imperfect, but I have character. I am fearful, but I have courage. I am limited, but I have a rich network of many friends who are willing to help me. And so do you. And so I share with you Your identity is not your title, it's not your job, and it's not your degree. It's who you are. The relationships that you have gained here are everything. I encourage you to focus on continuing to develop them. Most of all of you are here either to create a transition or to help face one in the future. Transitions are not about knowing exactly what to do. They're about a willingness to accept what comes and to have the courage to find and act on the opportunities that present themselves. Thank you and congratulations to the class of 2016.
Thank you for that, Tim. Maybe, the story, maybe, right? It's one of the things as you get into leadership seats, I think it's just having a longer timeline on the way you react to almost anything is so fundamental. A huge piece of wisdom, living the meme, living the value, even if that video failing wasn't strictly your responsibility. It's not a call everybody would make. Thank you for those. Very important, Tim. I get to introduce now Jay Stowski. It is my pleasure. He is a colleague. He is a friend. He is the Senior Assistant Dean for Instruction. He oversees all of the instruction of all of our degree programs, and he will present our Teacher of the Year award that we call the Earl F. Chait Award for Excellence in Teaching. Jay Stowski. Thanks, Jay.
Hello. Pretty good program so far, yeah? We'll try to keep that going. It's one of the great pleasures of my role, which is to oversee all the teaching at the school, to be able to present on your behalf the Chait Award for Excellence in Teaching. It's also a great moment for those of us who are stewards of this great institution to remember Bud Chait, our former dean, who established this award in 1976, and who was the epitome of what my grandmother used to call a gentleman and a scholar. These awards are not a popularity contest. They're judged by you, or a committee of you, on the basis of the following criteria: excellence in teaching, a genuine interest in students, and a sincere concern for the individual development of students. Now, there were many incredibly worthy nominees for the Chait Award this year. We have an extraordinary faculty, I think you'll agree. I'm constantly blown away by the quality and the commitment of this faculty to teaching in your program. So to win the EMBA Chait Award is to be acknowledged as a standout among standouts. Having started 4 companies and worked as President Obama's Chief Innovation Officer in USAID, this year's Chait Award winner is perhaps best described as a serial entrepreneur and investor. She's also a graduate of the Berkeley Columbia Executive MBA program and is increasingly committed to teaching at Haas as the school's first Distinguished Teaching Fellow. She played an impressive role in Hillary Clinton's campaign, and we hope to see her leadership and campaign prowess in future elections. She's a true visionary who always gives back. She'll be leaving our reception early this evening to hop on a flight as a documentary about the charter school she began in Baltimore is premiering at the Sundance Film Festival. Talk about a Renaissance woman. Allow me to share a few comments from EMBA students about this year's recipient, Mara O'Neill. Mara is inspiring, transparent, and selfless in all things, sharing herself so that we can all learn through her experiences an extended network of really exceptionally smart people. Mara is committed to the education and learning of students, and she has clearly dedicated her time and effort to connect with each of us. In her new Venture Finance and DC Immersion Week courses, Mara brought a special blend of academic theory and real-world credibility through a variety of lectures, simulations that demonstrated the roles of founders, funders, employees, VCs, and strategists, as well as with thought-provoking guest speakers. Beyond Mara's impressive resume and teaching skills is an unerring humility and warmth that strikes everyone who meets her. From opening up her house and cooking dinner for a large number of EMBA students during an off-block trek to Seattle, to opening her network when students need a connection and advising and assisting students with job negotiations. And this white glove treatment was extended to all students, not just the ones taking her courses. Mara's generosity, grace, and humility knows no boundaries, and her learnings, impact, friendship, and joie de vivre will be with the EMBA class of 2016 forever. For her teaching excellence, massive contributions both in and outside the classroom, personal mentorship, and deep commitment to EMBA, please join me in congratulating Mara O'Neill, Distinguished Teaching Fellow.
Thank you very much. Martha Graham spent 96 years redefining what mattered. Poor and still unknown at age 41, the impact she went on to have with dance was staggering, and often compared to Picasso for visual arts, Stravinsky for music, and Frank Lloyd Wright for architecture. The mother of modern dance thought of life this way. And I thought it was appropriate for today. She said, "You are unique and so am I. And if you do not fulfill that uniqueness, it is lost to the world. No matter how uncomfortable it may be, you must pay your debts to the life that has been permitted to you, and to do so with as much courage as possible." I stand before you today with deep humility and appreciation for this award, and with the hope that even through moments or months of fear, you will have the greatest courage to champion your uniqueness, the uniqueness that I have seen up close and admired with awe. Champion your special gifts before they're lost to the world. Thank you.
It also gives me great pleasure to announce the winner of the Haas School Outstanding Graduate Student Instructor Award for the EMBA program. A graduate student instructor, a GSI, serves as an apprentice under the active supervision of the faculty member who is the instructor of record for the course. This year's Outstanding Graduate Student Instructor Award winner is Ayan Sadiq. Come on. Now I can really embarrass you. Ayan has played a huge role in the success of the class of 2016 as the GSI for Greg LeBlanc's Data and Decisions course, one of the first classes for these returning students. We heard from the award committee about your fantastic sessions outside of the block that became essential to mastering the topics of the course. The students have said you were patient, kind, and gracious, which is exactly what students need at that point in the program. Every point in the program. You went above and beyond to facilitate learning as the cohort came up to speed in term one. Congratulations, Ayan.
Thank you, everyone. I'm very humbled and grateful to receive this, especially from a group of such accomplished and thoughtful people. It's particularly special for me because this was my first time working with MBA students in the classroom. And so I'll definitely remember you guys for a long time to come as I embark on my own teaching career, hopefully, in a couple of years. So receiving this award makes you guys all the more memorable than you already were. So thanks a lot.
Now we turn to our Class of 2016 Academic Achievement Award. To be the valedictorian amongst such a selective group of the best and brightest MBA students, it should go without saying, is quite an accomplishment. This year's valedictorian for the EMBA program has an impressive GPA of 3.957. In order to do well as a student in the Executive MBA program, one needs the foundations of intelligence and the ability to compartmentalize work, family, friends, life, classmates, faculty. That is such a wonderful sound. Taking full advantage of everything Haas has to offer. Indeed, our valedictorian award goes beyond celebrating the student with the highest GPA. It also celebrates the student who excels in an intense and accelerated environment. Not only did our valedictorian excel in the program, he did it while beginning his own startup, or as his classmates put it, he was one of the few of us who jumped off the cliff of entrepreneurship while still in the program. It is my great pleasure to introduce your valedictorian, Chris Sampson.
Jay, thank you very much for the kind words. I am humbled and honored to be standing here on behalf of this amazing EMBA class of 16. I know it's been said many times, but I must emphasize that I am forever grateful for the sacrifices that my wife Megan, my daughter Claire, my family have made over the past 19 months, as well as for the sacrifices that the significant others and the families of my classmates have made. Thank you very much. I would also like to thank the faculty, the program office, the admissions office for exceeding your expectations in every way possible and providing a truly one-of-a-kind experience based on experiential and immersive learning. When I look back on the past 19 months, the thing that has surprised me the most of everything that we have learned about business, leadership, economics, politics, and so on, is that the one common thread to success is the relationships that you build with people throughout your life and careers. I know, it sounds so obvious. More relationships equals more success and more opportunities. But if it's so obvious, then why is it so often neglected? Why do most people cite networking as their #1 reason for getting their MBA? Why do we have several classes on building relationships, even one dedicated to building trust-based relationships? It's because creating and maintaining relationships must be organic. It takes a lot of effort, and you can't assign a tangible value to a relationship like you can with so many other things. So the time spent on this now can easily be pushed aside. I am one of those people that wanted to primarily get their MBA to network with professionals outside of my industry at the time. I figured that networking would at least be worth a reference for a job in the future if needed, and I still believe that. I imagine that networking in the Executive MBA program would be similar to a corporate Christmas party. A bunch of people in suits having dry conversations about work, acting like they're interested in the projects that they're working on, yet secretly counting down the minutes until they can leave. I realized I was wrong just 2 days in the program when our networking event for that evening included taking a yacht across the bay to San Francisco, wining and dining on the waterfront overlooking the Bay Bridge, and capping the night at the Starlight Room, where everyone showed off their best dance moves, or at least we tried to. Over that first term, our class quickly transitioned from professional relationships to friendships, culminating in a tearjerker that none of us were ready for in Napa. We thought we were going to Napa to learn how to present and communicate as leaders. We were really sent to Napa to dig deep into our past experiences, to learn why we are wired the way that we are, and how we are perceived. We had to know our own story before we could tap into the stories of those that we lead. Once we thought we couldn't be more uncomfortable, we were sent off in groups where we stood in front of our classmates, lowered our curtains, and vulnerably shared stories that have never been told before. These stories were deep, many tears were shed, but this is when we respect each other for who we were and not just for what we were. We moved on to this program now learning about how relationships lead to success in business. Every successful entrepreneur that we came across during our Silicon Valley immersion commonly stated that the relationships with their teams is what got them to where they are today, not necessarily the big idea that they came up with. This was echoed by venture capitalists during our new venture finance class, stating that relationships are the key to raising money for new businesses, but to establish them much earlier than when you actually need the money. We capped our formal education in relationships in Singapore, where we learned that a relationship with our significant other can be maximized by a mathematical formula. 1.05 plus 0.49 multiplied by S minus F, which has empirically been tested to true, yet I still continue to test this hypothesis. As you reflect on the relationships that you have, the relationships that you had, and the relationships that you want to pursue, remember that you can't hide who you really are. So take the time to figure out your own story, embrace the good and bad, and consciously start to think about the next chapter of who you want to be. For me personally, since our trip to Washington, D.C., I have this relentless urge to do more in our community and to represent the values that we stand for as UC Berkeley Haas graduates, which is needed now more than ever. As for my chapter during my time here at Haas, I was in a team for all but 3 of my graded classes. So I would not be standing here today if it weren't for my teammates. We did this. Just as we stood together throughout this program, it only feels right to me that we stand together as we formally end it. So as I call my teammates' names, I would ask them to please stand. Kelly Brashear. Let's hold the applause till the end, please. So I meet my time limit. Danielle Dudum-Baxter, Josh Goldsmith, Matt Herskovich, Ethan Ho, Peter Hodgins, Matt McLaurin, John Marion, Joe Peters, Eric Sharp, Ian Sharp, Eli Sunken, Wolfgang Stair, Norvell Tate, Anand Valamstetla, and Susie Wang. Thank you.
Chris, that was incredibly moving. How nice to hear the pronoun we. It's now my pleasure to introduce 2 of my Berkeley Haas colleagues. Mike Riley, CEO of Berkeley Executive Education and former Assistant Dean of this program, and Jamie Breen, now Assistant Dean for the MBA Working Professionals programs. And they will present our Defining Principles Awards.
Thank you, Jay. As Dean Lyons told you earlier, the school is built on the 4 defining principles, and they really are, if I may mix my metaphors, both the heart and soul and the bedrock of the school. Every year, the students in the class nominate and vote for the student in their class who best exemplifies each of the defining principles. And then we, as a program office, also choose students who define all of those principles, and in addition to that, choose graciousness, what we call the fifth principle. So, our first defining principle award is to question the status quo. Berkeley leaders champion bold ideas, take intelligent risks, and accept sensible failures. And in doing so, they need to speak their minds. Students nominated this year's Question the Status Quo winner because she gives voice to what people think but are too afraid to say, and always asks the hard and sometimes unpleasant questions, but always with the goal of increasing knowledge among the class. In the words of her finance professor, Brett Green, "I cannot think of a more worthy candidate than Mercedes for an award related to questioning the status quo. After the first day of class with Mercedes, I thought, wow, she's tough." As the term progressed and I got to know her better, I began to realize the value in her embodiment of this defining principle. Mercedes pushed all of us in the classroom, myself included, to think hard about why and not just how. Congratulations, Mercedes, well deserved. Mercedes Browning, question the status quo.
I'll pretend I'm surprised. Congratulations, Mercedes. Question this one is confidence without attitude. Now more than ever, we value confidence without attitude, making decisions based on evidence and analysis, giving confidence to act without arrogance, which allows us to lead through trust and collaboration. The EMBA 2016 cohort nominated this year's recipient of the Confidence Without Attitude Award for taking up the challenge of bringing this class together, building trust and a collaborative environment in a close-knit cohort, and showing us how to lead with empathy, insight, and without attitude. Peter Goodson says of this student, "I knew there was something special about Harold the first time I asked him to lead a turnaround case. After he finished, I remember closing with, 'Would you like to teach the rest of the class, Harold?' You don't need me." What struck me was his humility and the gracious way he carried himself. He demonstrates that really great leaders don't need authority. People just naturally are attracted to their ideas and down-to-earth way of offering solutions. Please join me in congratulating Harold Allen as the EMBA 2016 Confidence Without Attitude Award winner.
Students always. The EMBA program is designed for people who are coming back to school, and it's not a place for those who feel they've learned all they need to learn. Their commitment to being students always is demonstrated by their lifelong pursuit of personal and intellectual growth. The 2016 Student Always Award recipient is being acknowledged for his active engagement in striving to continually learn more. He was the one person I would want on my team for Jeopardy! He has cultivated a wealth of knowledge throughout his life and career, which continues with EMBA today. Maura O'Neill has said of this student, "The light in Mark's eyes and the insightful contributions he makes in class illuminate the student always in his heart. What an incredible attribute to walk through life with." Mark Gorenflow, the winner of the EMBA 2016 Students Always.
Congratulations, Mark. Beyond yourself, we value those who shape our world by leading ethically and responsibly, taking the longer view in our decisions and actions. Students say this year's winner is a regular and needed voice in class, reminding us that our actions as leaders have implications beyond the boardroom, and that she opened up students' eyes to why and how it's important to develop a more inclusive society. David Reamer says of this student, "Christy is a born leader who possesses that rare combination of vision, passion, and skill. She sets insanely ambitious goals and exceeds them. Christy became the first person in her family to attend college, and she received honors at Cal. She took on the top role at Destiny Arts Center, then found them a permanent home and tripled the scope of the organization. She and Tom chose to start a family and brought the beautiful, brilliant Natalia into the world. And then she decided to get an MBA, and now here she is receiving this award. The world needs more people like Christy. She aims for the moon and usually reaches the stars." Christy Johnson Limon, please join us on stage to accept the Beyond Yourself Award.
Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you, Christy, for all you've done. So, as I mentioned, in the EMBA program, we've designed what we call the fifth principle, and it does celebrate all of our students embody all of our defining principles, but in every class, there are always a couple of students who really bring it to the fore of all the defining principles, and also, as I said, that act of choosing graciousness in everything they do and in every interaction they have. So this year we have two recipients of the Fifth Principle Award. First, this winner was nominated for going out of his way to reflect and voice his appreciation for everything that goes into the EMBA experience. He personifies gratitude. It's rare to meet an individual who consistently looks for the positive in every situation, while always being gracious and articulate with his feedback and appreciation. His level of engagement with the EMBA program is the epitome of what we hope for in our students, and I feel honored to have worked with him over these 19 months. Stephen Huff, his marketing professor, has echoed this sentiment. Michael is certainly deserving of this recognition. He has an infectious enthusiasm that lifts others wherever he goes. When in his presence, one cannot help but feel more capable and more confident. He has trained his eye to see the strengths in others, and he is quick to highlight them. I was recently a beneficiary of this. Without my knowledge, he observed me taking extra time after a seminar to talk to lingering students. He immediately took the time to write an email and share this with Mike Riley, who shared it with me. The way Michael made it sound, I was not just a leader, but a hero. His kindness that day has stuck with me, and because of it, I strive even more to live up to that image. It has made me better. If you ever lack confidence, doubt yourself, or feel discouraged, go spend time with Michael. His balm can soothe your soul, and by the time he's done with you, you'll be ready to take on the world again. Michael Hennon, you are our fifth principal.
Congratulations, Michael. The co-recipient of the Fifth Principal Award, again nominated by staff, was selected for her inclusiveness and genuine interest in connecting with everyone at Haas. We're giving this away at the very top. Liz has given so much to her classmates, her professors, the program office, and the school. For someone who was new to fundraising, she took on the class campaign with gusto and hit it out of the park. Her passion, dedication, and wonderful spirit are a gift, and we are so happy that she shared it with her EMBA family. Professor Goodson, again, agrees and adds the following. In crisis management, being tough is often an imperative to survival. Teaching the turnaround leadership class at Berkeley, you always need to be aware that the topic may be a shock to many and can be an unsettling experience. Elizabeth was my barometer in turnarounds, my compassion compass, and will be one of my GSIs for the next EMBA class, which is a very honored position. It is always my aim to find out what students can handle, what level to teach to, and how far I can push students to excel. Her sensitivity and universal belief in the integrity and value of everyone she meets made her invaluable to me. When questioning limits, Liz was the one I looked to for advice. Her empathy was inspiring, and she always prudently tempered my approach. Elizabeth has a gift. Liz Lowry.
And I would now like to ask Catherine Crowley, Director of Academics and Student Experience for the MBA for Executive Program, to join me here at the podium for the reading of the graduates' names and the awarding of the scrolls. And graduates, if you can stand and start to proceed to your processional, please. Kriya Shantalat. Tom Dugan. Michael Hennon. Matt Herskovich, AKA Jesus Matt. Alejandro Maldonado. Patrick Lamb. John Swamp Fox Marion. Ethan Ho. Michael Booth. Eric Sharp. Danielle Elise Dudum Baxter. Kelly Brashear. Renee Kelly. Ian P. Sharp. Eli Sonkin. Jennifer Summerhays. George Nicholas Johnson. Jeff Yeldezian. Scott Olszewski. Ronak Shah with honors. Payam Abrashami. Hodgins. Saurabh Verma. Torser, Coty, and Child. Adam Karen with honors. Chris Cruzy. David Goranzik. Sally Jewel Elaine. Unitha Rudnathikam. Cynthia Butler. Harold O. Allen III. Mark Gorenflow with honors. Lita Kurita. Mani Kanapan. Sham Sunder. Ruth McKenzie. Cindy Cohen. Jason B. Wiesner. Johannes Peters. Josh Goldsmith. Dom Goretto with honors. Miguel Saiz Serrano. Anand Valamsetla. Trevor Curry. Wolfgang Stair. Matt McLaurin. Surya Komareddy. William Chung. Norvell Tate. Amit Karmakar with honors. Lado. Jai Pradeep Dav. Matthew Wood. Matthew Eldert Waringham. Susie Jun Wang. Derek Lamb. Sunny Chen. Rashmi Singh Thakur. Rupali Kojalgi. Yuli Ashkeloni. Maria Barak. Christy Johnston Limon. Chris Piliero. with honors. Chris Sampson with honors. Matthew Kleinman.
Will all the candidates for the degree Master of Business Administration please rise? By virtue of the authority vested in me by the President of the University of California and the Chancellor of UC Berkeley, I grant you the degree Master of Business Administration. Congratulations. Please be seated. Thank you. It's now official. All of these, our graduates here, have commenced a new lifelong relationship as alumni with Berkeley Haas. We welcome you to this new distinction and relationship. Here are a few things to think about as alumni. At Berkeley Haas, we connect to one another. We lean into one another. That's why this alumni network is so strong. We give to it, we take from it when we need it, and it is an important part of what makes this truly an institution and not just a school. We give back with our time, we give back with our effort, we invest back in the school. These are the things that give it the quality that it has and allow us to deliver the relationship and the experiences that we do. But at the end of the day, when we think about what we are to one another as alumni, right? It's one thing to say that we support one another, and of course we do. But we do that in part because we share those values, because we have that common creed and those elements that allow us not just to lean into one another in this room, but also other alums of this remarkable institution that share those same values. It is the real glue, the essence of the relationship. And we connect and give back to this institution by connecting to that network. And the network, people, we connect to it in very, very different ways. We have very high, Barbara DeSore, one example, one of our alums, she's the president of, or the CEO of Citibank. A very busy person. But when I call Barbara and I ask, we have a couple of admits that might choose another school, would you be willing to call them? She says yes. And this is a great way for her, in her limited time that she has, to give back to the school. It's but one example, and we have so many alumni that are willing to help us. And what's the right way for you? That's for you to define, how you want to connect back. And send us talent, right? So many of you are here because somebody you know that was in the program said, you have to look at this. This was transformative. help us tell our story together. And great leaders give back with the long chain of those alumni that made those programs possible, right? I mentioned it before. The buildings, those beautiful Haas buildings are the first privately funded buildings on the Berkeley campus. And those are the things that help us to do what we do. And you, in your class investment back in the school, have set a new standard there as well. I bring this ceremony to a close. Please remain seated as the faculty and the new graduates process out the hall. We invite you to enjoy the beautiful Hertz Hall venue for photo opportunities with your new graduates once we have processed out. We are full of pride at the achievements of this remarkable group of people that sit before you here today. We eagerly anticipate your great accomplishments, the ripple effects from these 69 people on our world over their lifetimes is and will be incalculable. You have our best wishes for success. Congratulations. Thank you all for being part of this commencement ceremony. And the ceremony is now concluded.